Hello. I have had a couple of requests to describe my process in converting and magnetizing this version of the summons. So this is, of course, the current year's Warhammer Plus miniature, free miniature, I guess you'd call it, for the Age of Sigmar. And I thought it would make a nice Necromancer as well. Obviously, the base here is too large to run as a Necromancer, so if you want to do that, you have to convert it. So I decided to convert and magnetize it. Initially, I was hoping it would be a little simpler to do. Unfortunately, it is not. So anyone who wants to go into this, just be aware you will have to do a fair bit of sculpting. It also requires drilling, so a pin vise is recommended. Yeah, so essentially what I did, this comes in, on the initial sprue, it comes in a couple different pieces. The Necromancer, you can see here, is separated with the front of the headstone from the back piece, and they slot together pretty well. I opted to go with two magnets on him. I was originally just going to do a centralized magnet that matches up there. The reason that didn't work is because there's still a bit of wobble to it. So I did test fit it. It fits a lot better with two. Possibly three would be even better, but I like this because it kind of hinges down as well when I try and pull it away, which is very helpful. So some issues with the conversion. Obviously, one main one you'll notice, he doesn't slot off easily because there is a skeleton hand that is molded onto this part of the base here, or not the base, but rather the miniature, and which means if you're gonna use this as a standalone Necromancer, you're going to have to find another skeleton to hang on to that. Initially when I saw this, I was really hopeful that the way that they had designed it was that this seam line here at the base, at the back of the headstone, that all would pop off as one piece. To my mind, that would have made a whole lot more sense, to be honest, as a design. They must have known people would want to convert this to just a standalone Necromancer I think the Necromancer's, I believe, on a 32 millimeter base. But they didn't make it very easy. So I'll show you here now the magnetized conversion. So this is the piece that I came up with for that. And apologies for any out of focus shots here, but there you go. Essentially, we've got the Necromancer. It's similar kind of pose. Again, you'll see another skeleton here. I've opted for a skeletal hand punching out of the dirt as well. And yeah, so what I did to convert this, you'll see same sort of thing, lined up a couple of the magnets. This is, I believe I use the Tamiya Superfine putty. Traditionally, I actually working a little bit more in milliput. If for anyone who's not familiar with the different kinds of epoxy putties that you can use for these sorts of things, milliput I think is probably the easiest to work with, but it also has the disadvantage of being very chalky in general. And so I think it's good for things that are, like large flat surfaces. If you need things with intricate detail, it's not great for that. One thing that I like to do with milliput on something like this, you can actually, create your blob or the rough shape that you're going for. And then before the milliput's completely cured, you can actually use like a sharp hobby knife. You can shave it down essentially, and so you can get harder facets. So if you're going for something like a rock or a headstone, you can use that. But when I was sculpting this, unfortunately, I was out of milliput. I used the Tamiya stuff. It's pretty good as well. It has a little more of the tackiness that you'd find with green stuff. Green stuff is, of course, the best thing to use for capes or fabrics or furs because it holds on to a lot of detail, but it's very hard to work with. It's very tacky. So you need to use a lot of Vaseline or a lot of water if you're using sculpting tools so that it doesn't stick to it. The skeleton guy here himself is just leftover bits I had from like the Graveguard kit, the old Graveguard kit before they did the modern Barrel Guard. Various other things. The cavalry sword here from the new Barrow, what are they called? Barrow Knights. Again, the new kit there. A little leftover scabbard I had from the Death Rattle kit as well. I didn't realize literally until I was done painting it that scabbard is way too small for the cavalry sword. So hopefully people don't really notice that. I'm not too bothered by it. And then, yeah, I used a breastplate piece from a couple different kits. I think that's a Graveguard breast, or no, that's actually from the new Barrow Guard kit. And then the back of that is from the Barrow Knights as well. So squish those together with a little bit of putty. Tried to hide the seams. It's pretty quick and dirty. I didn't do a great job there. You will need to find a skeletal forearm to connect to the hand there. That is just super glued onto that sculpted back of the headstone there. And it came together pretty well. Obviously, there's a pretty obvious seam line. Not much I can do about that here in the side and the top of the headstone. I do think it's probably not super noticeable from most angles. And again, if you kind of squint at it, it kind of just looks like a fissure in the carved stone. So not super worried about that. Again, I like this model. I do wish they had done a little more work in the design stage, or at least when they were carving it up for to put it on a sprue. That I wish they'd done a little bit more work to make that user friendly, a little more user friendly to make this conversion. It is doable, not super easy. I do want to give a shout out to a tool that I've started using, which is, let's see if I can get it on screen, the Fantic handheld rotary tool. Again, it's so huge. This thing's cool. I am very susceptible to ads, and I think it was Ninjon, the YouTuber, who suggested this thing. I've actually been looking for a tool like this for a long time. It's a handheld rotary tool with a battery. Previously, I'd just been using a Dremel with an extension cord. Like, you can get one that makes it a little more easy in the hand, but even that was very cumbersome. It's also just way heavier duty than we need. Like, this has a pretty low RPM, which is fine for most miniature stuff. So I can cut things. It comes with a whole host of grinding bits and cutting bits and various things like that. Very useful on this project. Just want to give that a shout out. Otherwise, yeah, that is my conversion. Hopefully you enjoyed that. If there's any other questions, you can leave them in the comments, and just let me know. If you're going to try this conversion yourself, I'd love to see your version. I don't think I made the definitive one by any stretch, so if you feel like you could do it better, I'd really love to see it, because at certain points, admittedly, this was a bit of a struggle. So hopefully yours will go easier and turn out looking even better. All right, thank you so much.